Toxic positivity can be really, really bad. And if you don't know who I am, I'm a pretty hopeful guy, and the kind of content I make is hopeful. But saying that, in today's video, I'm going to break down pretty much why toxic positivity can pretty much harm your mental health, and sometimes how it can backfire, and I guess what you can do to really get to the root cause and improve your life accordingly. So I think to start off with, like those situations where you've ever been told to just think positive, or you watch a hopecore video, or even you watch my channel, and it might seem like a really good sort of escape and a magical cure for a lot of your problems. And it seems great in theory, right? But in practice, it sometimes feels a bit dismissive, kind of unhelpful, or sometimes even worse, it can make you feel guilty for not being happy enough. And the reason why I say that is because sort of just the thought alone without action isn't gonna do you much, and it can actually do the opposite of what the intention is. And so toxic positivity is kind of like this idea that no matter how sort of bad or challenging any kind of situation in your life is gonna be, you should always maintain a positive outlook. And that's true, right? It makes sense, because how else can you get through it if you don't have hope? But sometimes there's a little bit of a problem with that. Life isn't always going to be bright and happy. You're not always going to be 100%. And pretending that everything is fine when it's not can lead to a lot of denial, a lot of invalidations of your own emotions, and even self-blame, to the point where you kind of bottle up everything, and then it's gonna come about in really, really toxic ways to yourself. Maybe when you're alone at night and you're sort of stuck with your own thoughts, or maybe one sort of challenge in your life might sort of take you to the brink of your mental health. And it's like, for example, if someone that you know died or something like that, right? And someone who's at the funeral with you is trying to sort of console you by saying at least they're in a better place, or it was meant to be, or anything along the lines of that, right? It's really good advice, but it's not going to heal you. It might temporarily make you feel better because it's positive thoughts, right? In a sort of negative environment like that, then it might help, but it doesn't solve, because what's going to happen 10 minutes later, you're not really going to remember that sort of statement. You're just going to sort of kind of get a little bit of a reality check. And again, these phrases, whilst like they might be well intended, the intention is going to be really pure, sometimes it dismisses the sort of feelings that people are experiencing. And that's why I'm a really, really big advocate for sort of taking your time to process things. And that means accepting every single emotion that comes along with it. Now, I'm not saying that you have to sort of cultivate this victim mindset where you have to always really be sad if you're in a bad situation. But sometimes you have to really just let the emotions flow. You have to really let life flow. And that's the whole point of it, because you have to kind of go through the ups and downs, highs and lows, because you can't always have highs. You can't always have light without shadow, and you can't always have shadow without light. Just, basic duality stuff, right? And so toxic positivity pretty much silences this pain, and then replaces it kind of with a pressure that you have to be happy, you have to be high, you have to be the light, you have to be right. And so I hope you can kind of see where I'm kind of going with this, because it can backfire in a lot of surprising ways, to the point where it's like emotional suppression. And if you're suppressing some of these negative emotions by sort of forcing yourself to be positive at all the time, then it can lead to a lot of stuff, man. I don't think a lot of people realize, but your emotional health is also something that's really, really important, as well as your mental health. And they are interlinked, I think, at least, or at least I would like to believe so. And if they are that sort of strong in terms of determining how your life sort of flows on a day-to-day basis, it could probably manifest in some kind of physical ailment or mental ailment, like anxiety or depression. And for the physical symptoms like fatigue or headaches or sluggishness, laziness, then you start to adopt bad habits by maybe pushing your emotions further and further, by binge eating, or maybe you try to escape through other ways. And can you just see how this like virus kind of just spreads over time, right? So it's a really tricky scenario to be in, because you should be positive, but then it's like you shouldn't really lie to yourself at the same time. And that's why I think it's really good to be unrealistic sometimes, because when you're setting really ambitious goals, or maybe you're just trying to sort of get yourself back together, you kind of need to think a bit unrealistically in a very good manner. But sometimes this toxic positivity can set up this kind of false expectation that life should always feel good and always feel amazing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, if you can kind of condition yourself to think like that, maybe you can handle hardships and develop more resilience. But until that point, or at least a lot of people may not even reach that point, you're going to start to think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stay positive? Why am I so bad at everything? Why can I not achieve this or that? Or why have I not stuck to my goals? Or any kind of mishap that goes on in your life, it could potentially cause a cycle of shame and guilt and grief. And those are horrible emotions to just bottle up inside, because, man, that thing will just eat you up from the inside, man. Crazy, crazy stuff. And at that point, you're not really yourself anymore, because you're not authentic. You're just losing touch with your true self with this sort of idealistic version of yourself. And it's definitely something or someone to sort of build towards in terms of your character development. But as of right now, setting micro goals and things like that would be much more beneficial than just sort of trying to just jump over there without realizing that you have all these sort of things to work on in your own mind. And you might call them negative emotions like sadness or frustration, anger, grief, all of the stuff that I was saying earlier. But I don't think they're negative. I think they're just reflections of how you think, and it's an opportunity to understand why they are coming and where are they coming from. They're sort of signals that your kind of body and mind gives to you when you're not satisfied. So if anything, it's a pretty good thing to have sometimes. So, saying that, maybe we should start to cultivate acceptance, number one. And I mean, everyone knows about this concept because I feel like mindfulness is on the rise. A lot of people are just starting to really realize how important mental health is and things like that. But it really means sort of accepting the present moment as it is right now without trying to change it. You're just the observer. You're not giving up. It just means that you're kind of chilling out. You're just conserving energy for some of the things that you can do as of right now. You're just chilling, right? And I think to even get to this point, you have to really kind of practice emotional validation, which is hard to do, and it takes a lot of courage. It really, really does. It takes a lot of courage to admit when you're wrong. It takes a lot of courage to admit that you're flawed. But it's okay to give yourself permission to kind of feel these emotions without judgment. It's okay to be weak or have these kind of bad feelings flow up. You're not alone, number one. A lot of people right now are probably going through the exact same thing that you're going through. And if you keep bottling it up, it's not going to take you anywhere. And then you've got to kind of just, I guess, start to reframe, change your perspective, start to kind of realize after the acceptance part that, yeah, life is going to suck at times, but I can still get through it. There's still an opportunity, no matter how small or large it may be. And from here, you've really cultivated a mindset that you can do things. And from here, what's going to end up happening? You're going to develop more confidence in yourself. You're going to see that it's a very realistic standard to kind of overcome certain things. And your most ideal version is within reach, step by step, after hard work, after courage, after all these good things. And that might be, too much to ask of you, right? Because it's a journey at the end of the day. But what's going to come out of it and the kind of character you're going to build from that, you can't buy it. You can only develop it. And it's something that is so sought out after. A lot of people don't have their mental health right. A lot. So having that, it's kind of a flex. Being accepting of your own emotions, it's a flex. You've basically beaten like most of humanity. And if you're on the younger side of life, you'll realize over time that a lot of the world of adults, there's a lot of immature people out there. And they're very negative. So don't try to blend in with those people. You can really change yourself, man. And it's great because you get to enjoy life. A lot of people nowadays, they can't really say they enjoy life. They're just living, surviving, not really thriving, right? So I think I've been waffling for a little bit too much, but when you do start to think like this, life is a lot better, man. You're a lot more honest, authentic. You have more meaningful connections. You have more meaning in your life. Maybe you find your life purpose through this too, because you're not forcing this sort of persona on yourself. So, saying that, let's try and lead the idea that we always have to be happy 24/7. It's not just about being positive, it's about being real, resilient, and also human, which means to experience a spectrum of emotions. So if you are having a hard day, listen man, it's okay. You'll get through it. You got through it before, you can get through it again. Anyway, peace and blessings be to you all, and I'll see you in the next one.